Before we start the video, I've actually already done all the work in the filming, but I forgot to include this was, with this trigger group, and just about any gun that has a trigger group that drops out like this, do not let this hammer right here slam forward with all its strength. If you do, nothing will probably happen, but there is still a very good likelihood that something in there could break and possibly render the gun very unsafe, dangerous, could cause an accidental discharge or something, and possibly wound or kill your hunting buddy or your bird dog, or who knows. So don't do it. What you need to do is just gently let the hammer forward, like so. Just don't let it slam. So whenever you're touching that trigger, though, just always have a hand on that hammer. But yeah, don't let it slam. Don't do it. Alright, this is my Mossberg 500 Waterfowl Edition, Mossy Oak Duckblind Camo. It's a great gun, but with the trigger it had this thing where it had like some really heavy and not too long, but it had some weird take-up on it that I didn't like. And I searched on the internet all kinds of things about trigger jobs for these Mossbergs and came up with nothing. And when I took it apart and looked at the trigger group, I was amazed at how simple it was. I mean, this actually comes from the factory with an adjustable trigger, and I don't know how that people missed that. But alright, so I'll show you how that trigger adjusts. Or first I'll show you how it is now. This is how it comes from the factory. Breech is clear. And from the factory it has this kind of take up right there before it even engages the sear. And I felt like I was naturally pulling that, holding it with that pressure on it, which felt unsafe, like just to make my shot quicker. And I didn't like that. So to get this trigger group out, first what you want to do is have your action close, safety on, and you're going to need to punch out this pin. I'll use these Oakley M frames to punch out the pin, but it's that pin right there. It's kind of tough because I'm trying to hold this camera, which is an iPhone, with one hand and do this at the same time. Comes right out. It's not like a this isn't like a tapered pin, so it doesn't matter which way you put it in or push it out. Alright, but here's the trigger. And with this take up, I mean, I was looking at this thing and I was wondering how. I was thinking I'd install a set screw to modify this, and I figured this piece right here, I'd install a set screw to keep it up, but it comes with a set screw in there. Let me try to get that to focus. That little hole right there actually has a set screw in it. And all you have to do is get an Allen key that fits, tighten it up, and you're gonna have to adjust this, obviously, but get this focus. If you look in that little crack in the bottom left, it's kind of dark, but you'll see where the sear engages. And I can't really explain it, but by messing with the trigger, you should be able to figure out how how to tell by looking there. But what I'm doing is I'm tightening down this set screw until the hammer comes up, which is when the trigger no longer even engages the sear, which your gun would be in a dangerous state. Alright, there it goes. So at that point, you're going to want to back out the trigger a little bit, I mean this set screw, till it cocks back. And if we try this trigger real quick, it now has zero creep or take up. Well, it has a little creep actually, but basically your trigger is way better than the factory, and it's really not that heavy without that take up. It seems like it is because you're naturally going to be holding down the trigger through that take up, but it's really not very heavy. Try to get this pin in. Oh. I forgot my my interrupter and the pieces that go on the side. Dropped the phone there. Just trying to get that pin back out. I'll reassemble and then I'll start recording again. Alright, well, one thing I didn't realize is when you tighten that set screw all the way up to the point where your trigger's breaking with like zero creep and zero take up, is that this little thing right here, that's what the safety engages on. And when you're tightening that set screw, you're raising that. So basically, and that's part of the safety right here, that shiny part. That's what. Now, when you tighten the set screw, it raises that little piece on the trigger group. There it is. And so when you get it tight enough, when you get it like perfect, the problem is the safety can't turn on, and that's because this is too high. So what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need a file. You're gonna need to take a file such as this one, or like this one on this Leatherman. This one's actually pretty fine. I actually use both of these files, and you're gonna have to file that down, maintaining the angle that it already has. Maintaining the angle that it has, and you have to get it perfectly flush. You can go really slow, putting your trigger group in and out, testing it every time you take off like a tenth of a millimeter to be safe. That's a little small, but constantly checking the height to make sure, because if you take just like you take a thousandth too much off, you're going to have a gun with no safety. It will shoot with the safety on. Alright, I'm back, and I have it all assembled. And alright, now once you have your together and you think your set screws good, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try the trigger. Obviously, dry fire it. I already safety checked the gun; it's empty for sure. And that triggers how I like it. But now, what you need to do, if it's how you like it, you're gonna have to safety test it. Which means first, what you want to do is you want to hold the trigger down like so, rack the slide. Now you want to release the trigger and try it again. But make sure you're holding the trigger the whole time that you rack the slide. basically what that was to do is to make sure the trigger is resetting properly. While the camera was off, I tested that a couple times just to make sure it's resetting properly, and I recommend that you do it several times also. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do like a drop test. I'm not telling you to drop your gun right now, but basically what this is to do is to ensure that if you drop the gun or if it gets hit, it's not going to discharge accidentally and potentially killing or injuring someone. Basically, beat on the butt with beat it on the ground with on the butt of it. Hit it with give it some good hits with your hand. I suggest you do this safety off and safety on. And I did this more extensively when the camera was off also, to make sure that it's completely safe. And obviously you're gonna have to do it more than I just did for the camera. And also, by the way, see, notice it's still cocked. Also, one more modification you might want to do to help get rid of some of the extra over travel on your trigger is you might want to drill a hole in the back of your trigger guard right here, right there, and install like a set screw. And basically you adjust it so right after the trigger breaks, it stops the trigger. And basically that'll just get rid of all the over travel. And I've done it here on my Marlin, which has a complete trigger job done by myself. I'll demonstrate. You can see the set screw back there. Basically, as soon as the trigger breaks, all it does is stop it. And gets rid of all over travel. Hold on, get the focus. And so yeah, that's how you do a trigger job for your Mossberg 500. It's painfully easy, and I couldn't believe it actually comes with an adjustable trigger from the factory, although it's not stated as such. And obviously I can't recommend that you do this just for liability issues, but I mean, obviously it works great. And I don't know if the set screw is just a newer model thing, or if it's always been there on the 500s. But it's obviously there, and it obviously works. And so there you go. Have fun, be safe, and don't screw up your gun. One thing to add, if you've done the mod that I just showed you, how to adjust the trigger, and it still feels too heavy, in addition, to make this trigger smoother and a little bit lighter, what I'd recommend you do is you fully take down this trigger group. It should be it shouldn't be that hard. Just I'm sure there's other videos on YouTube or something. You probably just take out a couple pins like you see here, here, and here. Get the focus. Sorry, like there, and here in the back. Probably just those pins. And obviously that's going to be a little work, but what you'd probably would be good is clean all these parts with something like brake cleaner, some kind of degreaser, and basically just get down in there and then coat all these parts with some kind of dry lube. I like Hop's dry lube. By the way, this is what I personally would use to clean off those metal parts. Do not let that brake cleaner touch plastic. I believe it's acetone based, and it will eat away at many plastics, such as this main trigger housing is made out of. Probably ruin your finish, especially if you have